What's up, everybody, man? We're gonna have a great talk about this presidential debate. I know you guys been waiting on it because people been hiding, ducking, whatever side you want to attribute that to. We got a great discussion with Freeman's Journal and my guy Sir Tice. Gentlemen, what's up, man?
Yo, what's going on, Hoop?
Hey, what's good? Can you hear me? Wait a minute, it said we were unable to play your. Oh yeah, it hasn't started yet. That's why.
Okay, all right, yeah, all right. Make sure I'm like I paid for this, quote unquote.
Yo, so what do you think, Hoop? What made you? Because I saw your post on this. What makes you think? You think it's going to change minds, or is it just the entertainment, or do people realize how serious this is, or it's just another president? Give your thoughts.
I think that people are kind of locked in of where they want to vote. I think that as far as having real banter and real talk, you can equip yourself with some real knowledge that isn't speculatory. So in that regard, this is very important because I've seen several videos and I've talked, from an anecdotal standpoint, talking to people, and they really don't know where they stand with this. They have a candidate that they want, and I'm just keep it real. A Democratic candidate that they know nothing about, but here they are speaking about it. So I don't think it's going to just be something that's going to change a lot of minds per se, but it's just something that's necessary that if we're going to have a democratic process, like it's time to take the gloves off and let's get ready to rumble. You feel me?
Most def. Oh, salute, Dr. Vell. I'm not familiar with you, but what's good?
Yeah, that's my best friend in real life. So
yeah. What's good? I guess I'll go next in things here. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep my comments objective during the debate. Okay, I don't want to be like one of the biased sports announcers that we often complain about, but I will share this. Never in my life, and I go back, to understanding politics, I go back to, we'll say 92, where I understood the debates. Well, no, 88. Somebody's got some background if somebody can go mute if they don't mind. I've been watching this stuff and intrigued since 1980. I was a youngster then, and I didn't know, but it was just like, wow, love to do this. But my point is this: I've never seen a campaign that the candidate that one side that proclaims they want democracy, but for 3 elections they've installed a candidate that wasn't dutifully, primary through the process, regardless of what you think. Those are the facts. And that this candidate did not have issues published on their website or platform until Sunday night at midnight, ironically. And then it's uncovered that she copied and pasted, or the campaign copied and pasted Joe Biden's platform. And this is confirmed on multiple media sources, okay? So without lending my hand to a bias of sorts, I'm just like wondering, okay, we've seen what the other guy does, whatever you want to call him or anything like that. But I really want to see, okay, sell yourself. We've all heard, and I'll land the plane here. We've all heard, have your elevator pitch ready. Okay, what's the elevator pitch here? But now you got to elaborate, because we are talking about the leader of the free world here at the end of the day. Feelings be damned. Pass it off there. No one else wants to take up the opening statement?
I'll take it. Can y'all hear me fine? I haven't checked the audio yet.
Yeah, we hear you.
You good?
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't know, I haven't checked since maybe last week, midweek, but up until that point, she didn't have anything on her website except vote for me. Well, not even vote for me, but more so donate. It was all about donating and earning money, for the rest of the election or whatnot. But she didn't have any policies listed there. And I went to Trump's for a few different reasons, because I heard about this, what was it, Project 25. And then I was like, what is that? So I wanted to go educate myself. And I went to his website and it wasn't even there. So it was a Agenda 47. And I read through that, and it looked like Trump actually wrote it, because it wasn't that great, but it was something. So I'm here to see what they talk about, what the points are, and why that matters. Because a lot of our people, I feel like they voting off of emotion and not, well, you know what? A lot of people vote off of emotion. But I feel like they voting for a blank phantom platform, you know. And like you said, I haven't looked at it yet, but it makes sense if she copy and pasted it from somewhere, because she hasn't had anything that she's been running on except my plan is going to be this, my plan is going to be that. And I'm like, but what is the plan? You know, so that's why I'm here, and I am very anxious to see this whole thing unfold. Yeah, I got it.
Well, I just want to see if she has a full blown panic attack on stage. Honestly, right? Is she gonna break
or
down?
cackling? A panic or cackling?
Oh, I'm waiting for the cackle. Just one cackle, please. Right, that inappropriate laughing would be awesome. And they're gonna try to avoid showing them side by side, because I think Kamala's only 5'3", so standing next to Trump, that she's not going to look very quote unquote presidential. So so it'll be interesting. At least we'll see what's up.
I've kind of gotten a little bit of footing on her talking strategy. She that cackle is like kind of a nervous, like, little quirk she has. So it's a way to kind of get her on board of her talking style. And it's awkward as shit, because like it's very hit or miss with that cackle. And then, like, because she said something when she was speaking about her grandmother. Said, like, you think you just fell out a coconut tree and try to do the cackle and nobody was responding to it? Like, that shit literally makes no that really makes no sense. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you trying to
just fell out the coconut tree?
Yeah, like,
yeah. She told us, listen, I can beat this side up, and I can be critical of Trump too. There's some things out here. Let me say this, because I don't know how many people we're gonna get in or draw, but hopefully we'll get some. I believe, shout out to Dr. Vell, that yes, people do vote out of emotion, but more importantly, never in my life would I thought have people have said, you know what? I enjoy going to the grocery store right now. I've not met a person who said that. And I know many well-to-do people, unlike myself, I know many who like, dude, it's like a panic attack going to the grocery store, Listen, you literally have relatable issues that people can see, you got the people, oh man, it don't matter, two wings of the same bird. That's nonsense. And I'm not, obviously I'm a registered Republican because I vote and I want to vote in the primary. I'm not one of those, I'm independent because I don't want to declare a party, but I'm able to see, I'm more right of center, I will say it that way, but right of center now means you're far right, because the left has gotten so far left. And I'll say that to say this: we see an illegal immigration crisis that is so obvious, even if you don't live in a city that this doesn't happen within. It's amazing. It's just amazing that people are like, okay, I want more of this. So. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you guys this. I'll throw it out and anybody can pick it up. What do you think about these rules? Like, do you think the no audience thing is good or bad, or the muted mics? What's your thoughts on these things?
No, I think it's perfect. I think that we've had a lot of time to the side where we weren't given anything to go off of. So I don't want none of the optics, like, because I think that if I'm from the left standpoint, I want to create a moment where you can make Kamala look like a strong woman of color or what have you. So I'm cool with the hot mics being off, so you can't interrupt. Like, so it's just straight about the business. It's not about the posturing. It's not about the outer illusions. Just straight about what are you going to do for the American people, for whomever is invested in whatever sector they are. Like, I'm totally cool with the terms and conditions. I don't want all the theater, as it were. I don't want the theater. So I think it's good. The conditions, I mean, these are the conditions that Joe Biden has acquiesced to. So what's the point of changing it? You know what I mean?
They say it's moments away.
Okay.
I think Trump is going to just get her to focus on, hey, you're an incumbent. What are you talking about? Well, you're a part of this administration. So you're a part of the issue. Anything you complain about, this is on you guys. And she's going to, I think they're going to go January 6th. They're going to go Charlottesville. They're going to, and she's going to try to do that whole, how do I say this the right way? How do I say this the politically correct way? She's going to try to go what she did with Mike Pence. Excuse me, Mr. Former President, I'm speaking right now.
Right.
Because it's going to be very hard. Like he can hit her in so many ways. From, didn't you say you were part of the last in the room in the Afghan withdrawal? But Trump is going to get in. I was with the Afghan families. I was going to try to do my Donald Trump. I was with the Afghan families, where you all said I tried to use a publicity stunt and they invited me. Okay, they're getting introduced right now. Let's rock and roll.
Rock and roll. Shit. Let me turn the damn audio on. Shit.
I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because it was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic, and the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died. Has there been anything like it? We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan. And it's
there you
like
go.
4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out. When a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist.
Ooh.
Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reverse course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted, Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else. and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states. And the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart. And they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well, I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea, and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere
Exactly.
in America
None.
is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and in asking for
I'm gonna
an
jump in if you
abortion.
don't
That
mind,
is
real
not
briefly.
happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And
It's
understand
probably
what has
best
been
to wait.
happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans.
She's
Couples who pray
She's really
and dream of having a
women.
family are being denied IVF treatments.
You agree?
What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working one or two
I
jobs,
didn't hear you.
who can barely
Okay,
afford childcare as it is,
Hold on.
have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting
I
next to
don't
strangers
want
to go and get the
I
health
don't want-
care she needs.
All right,
Barely
you got
can
All right,
afford to do
brief
it, and what
interjection.
you are putting her
I mean, she's
through
belaboring this abortion
is
point, and she's getting
unconscionable.
this from
And the
ABC.
people of
I mean,
America
she's still
have
telling this
not-
abortion
the
story.
majority of Americans believe in a
Yeah.
woman's right
Pardon
to
me,
make
child
decisions
deletion,
that are
child
right.
deletion.
And that is why
No.
in every state where
And-
this issue has
I
been
think
on the
two
ballot
alley-oops
in
so
red
far
and blue
from
states
ABC.
both, the people of
You
America
peeped that.
voted for freedom.
Mhm.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her
Why-
that
why
question?
don't you
That's
answer
the
the
problem.
question, would you
Because under
veto?
Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question,
you
would you
could,
Hold
you
on.
could do
I thought the mic is
abortions in
supposed
the
to be off.
7th month, the 8th month, the
Right.
9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris,
important.
you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. Yes. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
Do that to yourself.
And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so, that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border?
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there.
Which
and
is true.
Then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as the rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from television.
But the people on television saying their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. this is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people, not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it, because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice President
to stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response?
all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis. She went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before.
Bring up the Keystone.
When they took over,
The Keystone.
they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment
to.
that
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
Chop and
But
check.
let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes,
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago, her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand.
They're going to probably
for
take a break
country,
soon, hopefully.
To stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
I'm going to
Let
tell
me
you.
follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
But
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they said
no
we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes.
Why are they belaboring this?
That was won by President Biden and yourself.
And
but I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country. He ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think
up.
we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago.
I'm
Now,
very
nearly
interested how she
40,000
answers
Palestinians
a
are
global
dead.
question.
Nearly
Same
100
here.
hostages
You know,
remain.
that
Just last week,
personal
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis, many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed, children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. this would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself.
I can't wait to tell
It's
you about the
well
gaslighting
known
that's
that
happening.
He said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic
Okay, we
ABC
gotta
News
rock and
presidential
roll.
debate from the National Constitution Center right
right.
here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
All right.
Are you down and let's cook?
All right, let me cook. If you don't, or unless you got something you chopping off the bit of.
Go ahead. Chop it off.
Let me turn the volume up because it seems really low on here. Man, she's easily been coached by like one of these acting coaches. Because a lot of, if you follow politics, you might hit the volume on the
Yeah,
floor.
I'm trying to turn it down.
Or there should be like a little mute thing, like if you just click over the mic. Yeah, that's it. Since we got, I'll say this real quick. It's a lot of gaslighting. It took Trump too long to mention that Keystone Pipeline. They are emotionally getting him. That's what was one of their strategy, and it's working. I don't necessarily think this is swaying either on either side, in my opinion, but Kamala she's using a lot of the personal stories to kind of personalize it, feminize it, to get to the heartstrings. I'll pass the mic.
Well, I'm gonna say with liberal-minded people, I'm kind of scrolling Facebook. So the way they're viewing it is he's not answering questions, but some people are kind of counteracting that she's not doing the same shit. So I think that for liberal-minded people, I don't think Trump is winning this at all. I think you guys have done a great job of putting out there that he's falling for the ego plays. And but the thing is, that's not going to move real America because my timeline is based on Black America, who we know how they motherfuckers vote. So I got to go off of what shit right here is. But ultimately speaking, she's doing a decent job of it's actually she's doing a better job than I thought. For what she's shown, which is much of nothing. She's playing it safe. She's playing small ball, as it were, and she's sticking to like the emotional thing. She's kind of hitting these talking points and kind of jabbing his ego, and he's taking the bait. And this is why we need multiple debates. So as it stands right now, how I view it, if I was on her team, I wouldn't take a single more one, unless, obviously they're going to keep speaking. But as it stands right now, I think that from her approach, of her base that she's appealing to, I think she's winning like a motherfucker right now.
I concur. It's a overall, I think it's a draw, but that is a win for her. I mean, she kept it down to one cackle.
Absolutely.
Right.
You got a cackle. You got a cackle counter.
And Trump is not kind of hitting her where it hurts. He should really hit her where it hurts. I mean, he could have said, "Hey, look, Putin isn't Willie Brown. It's going to take somebody who can, who can actually face down a man sitting across the table from them." So, I mean, there are a lot of things he could do, a lot of things, but he is falling for the ego without doing that himself, which I think is a detriment to him, really. I mean, she's so wide open. I mean, she's got a record. Attack it, right? Matter of fact, she could. When this takes a little bit more nuance, but there was a court case during her time as Attorney General in which California was found guilty of violating Black people's civil rights because of the way they hired and fired teachers, and it was resulting in a poor education for Black kids, right? He could go over that. That requires a lot of nuance, but that he should have laid the groundwork for that a long time ago. But I mean, she has a record that he could attack that he is not.
Well, I'm gonna say this, like, and before Sammy goes, he's focusing, like, because I'm looking at my timeline, I'm seeing how people receive the content, and they hung up on stuff like him bringing up eating the pets. Even if that's true, like, what does that do for the bottom line? Right.
I think that's because I'll let Sammy go. My bad. I'll let Doc go.
No, I'm just saying that, like, you're doing that, but like that's just something you can run with forever. Like, it's like a dog that snatches a bone and run down the street. Like,
right.
What's the point of even?
Yeah, let Doc go because this is about to come back.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, he's putting himself these traps that people who don't really hold nobody to anything that they can go wrong with. Go ahead, Sam.
So y'all hit on the same points that I was gonna hit on. And basically he's letting them attack his ego, and he's falling for that play. Because go ahead.
No, my bad, man. I thought you were done. My bad.
No, go ahead.
She's doing a lot of gaslighting that is working by constantly trying to tie him to Project 2025.
Yeah. That it's in America's best interest to do.
Well, we're going. Let's go on table that. I'm sorry for taking so long, and we'll let Sammy lead off.
You said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly. People being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war? Yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I wanted to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war, because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate.
Exactly.
I wanted to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen, for years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask
Trump
the Vice
should go
President,
in on this.
do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders.
Aren't you sick of story time hour? No, seriously.
Former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the president of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, We had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, "I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black." I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out.
These are things that
I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her.
Man, this is such
President Harris,
this is what's going to get over with the black people, unfortunately.
Honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was he owned land, he owned buildings.
Here comes the Central Park Five.
He was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times.
I told you.
Calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent. The Central Park
They weren't
5
innocent.
Took out a full-page
And people
ad
believe that.
calling for their
And that's the
execution.
crazy thing.
This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor.
Oh my God.
We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people, knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your 3rd time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad that you can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country, one who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do
This stuff
instead of
is
always
good.
disparaging the
Good old
American
opium.
people.
Yep.
I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000.
Where are they
for
going to get
young
the money
families
from
for the first
with
year of
their
your child's
inflation?
life
So I'm just
to
saying,
help
this is
you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time
free
home
stuff.
buyers. That's the kind of conversation I
Communism,
believe, David,
socialist
that
stuff.
people really
People
want
cheering.
tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name calling.
All right,
Let's turn the
he's going to reply
page
again.
Vice
I'm a
President
little
and
Harris,
move
ahead.
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump,
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
She
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because
Trump,
no, the
President
former
Trump,
president has said
no, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry.
I
We're
just
gonna
need to
move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is
times.
now your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better.
Correct.
Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up,
It's
they
stuff that
wouldn't
won't
vote
make
for it.
tomorrow's news.
I had a choice to make
Right.
when I was president.
Be
Do I
tuned in.
save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it
I know
rot?
what he's saying here.
And I
Let me see if I can
saved it.
get
I
this
did the
out.
right thing,
Yep.
but it's still
Here, I'll type
never
it.
going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have
I like that
to do
redirect.
that. And
Ask
you'll
them a
be hearing
direct
about it
answer.
in the
I like
not too
that.
distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But What we need to do is maintain
For
and grow
those
the
listening,
Affordable
he
Care Act.
asked, what is your
I'll get to
plan
that,
today?
Lindsay. I just need to
Let's
respond
see
to
how
a
she
previous point
responds.
that the former president has made.
What is
I've
your
made
plan
it very
today,
clear
James?
my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away.
What I think
Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So
what
stop
I
with the
think is
continuous
they're
lying about this
repetitive
stuff.
because this
As
is
it
what
relates
their
to the
campaign
Affordable Care Act,
managers
understand,
have
just look at the history to know
told
where people stand.
them
When Donald Trump was
to
president,
hammer
60
on.
times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like?
What's your
Remember
plan,
when an
Kamala?
insurance company could deny
What's your plan? That's a question.
if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice
Past his
President
prologue
Harris,
in
thank
terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a
She
lot
made a
of
mistake. At number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People
Trump.
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico. in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Doc, it's on you.
Man, I don't feel like we accomplished much today. It seems like that both of them really just kind of talking in circles. I don't feel like I learned more than I knew before this debate started. I don't know what they're gonna say in their closing remarks, but I don't expect anything, pivotal, or it's gonna be groundbreaking to move me in either direction. I came in objectively, just trying to have an open mind, because I want to see, what I didn't know and what the actual positions are.
Right.
I'm not going to say which direction I would go right now because honestly, it's,
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, let me help you out here. When I say help you out, I don't mean helping you out like that. I'm just saying, I know both of their positions and the angle. I'm going to say this. They're both winning their crowds. I will say Donald Trump is a little bit being too redundant on certain things. But then I thought, keep this in mind. They're both actors, okay? And I don't say that disparagingly. I'm saying it. They are both actors. One's the method actor. Another one is the antagonist of sorts. I mean, how they're perceived, right? And it made me think maybe they're hammering down this about illegal. On Trump's side, it's illegals. It's illegals, the oil, and us. Us showing our force globally, right? With Kamala, she's sticking on the emotional side and all those things. I'm thinking that this is what their campaigns have showed them. Hey, keep hammering this and keep reverting back to this. Let me also say this because we got to say this publicly. Man, did she get the questions? Come on, man. ABC. They're jumping in on his answers, and they only did her once when she was going too long at the end. I mean, this is some of the most biased shit I've ever seen. I mean, I'll just focus, and Trump could have focused on her record. And when I say her record, because she does work for the president organization, and he could have talked about her and Jamal Truelove. If you're not familiar with him, look him up, and how she did him when she was prosecutor there. But these are things that most people don't care about per se. But I'm just saying, I'm getting texts from the Trump campaign still. Good Lord. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What do y'all think?
No, I think this is, it was already stated that, it's only one debate. It's on ABC. It was already going to be a level of bias. So I think this is playing, up to that expectation. I got to give the sister credit because she's at least halfway pinning her down to some shit and getting her some answer. I think bro is a what we would call in our space a soy boy, whereas you are basically coddling this emotional undertone for the debate. And this is like Sammy said, I think he nailed it. I'm not getting nothing new from this shit. I do think though, from an emotional standpoint, Kamala is hammering this shit pretty well. she's basically giving confidence to people who just want to think emotionally. So I think she gained a lot of footing with this, to be frank, because she got Trump to get arrogant, and we know that their voting base hates arrogant white men or arrogant men for any at any rate. So she accomplished that, and I would not be surprised if she don't take another one, because when shit started getting like real stuff to talk about, I think Trump did a really good job with that. But those don't really ingratiate themselves with the populace of people. They don't really, i.e., they don't really care about that. They care about the optics, and I think that Kamala has delivered on that. If I'm just being honest. Freeman, you got anything?
Man, honestly, I think overall it's just a draw. There's no real. This isn't definitive in any way, to be honest. And I think Trump is, like I said before, I think Trump's letting her off the hook, man. He got her with that "I'm speaking" comment.
Yeah,
But I mean,
the closing's about to
yeah.
come in. We can wrap them.
Other than that, man, I didn't really see anything. He missed a lot of opportunities, you know.
He did.
Yeah. All right, well, Freeman, we're gonna start back with you when we get.
We've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just asked one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate
All right,
from
Free.
here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
You're up, Free.
All right, that is a wrap
Yo.
on the Harris-Trump presidential debate, now in the books.
Here with us tonight,
Yeah, man, a
for
lot of lost
post-debate
opportunities there.
analysis.
I was gonna say let it play, Hoop, but just to keep the sound down.
But yeah, just a lot of missed opportunities, in my opinion. He
I don't think.
there's a lot he could have done. Especially, man, maybe he's making commercials off this, but I mean, there are so many, sound bites of her being anti-2A, right? A mandatory gun buyback program. Yeah, that's exactly what they did to disarm Australia.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because I don't want to talk too much about policy here, but it was something that Doc had said I wanted to touch on. What I learned, but I will say this: what I learned about Congress, you know how like people were big up in that when Jasmine Crockett, like, yeah, she told Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know, all that low level stuff, Hoop, you're talking about that people love to champion in social media and shit, right? You know, when somebody says something slick, and the Republicans and Democrats both do it, they do that so that they can capture, like you just said, free sound bites. And then they can later use those in ads. It was something that Kamala said and something that Trump said I wanted to touch on. I did like the fact that Trump is like, okay, this is the one good thing Trump did. I'll tell you the one bad thing he did. I'll tell you both, the good and bad on both, and then I'll pass it. The one good thing that Trump did was he is not going to let her act like she's Kamala Harris and she's not a part of this administration. He is letting he was like, you all, he was hammering in on that. And that's good. I'm talking about for the independent voter. I'm not talking about the biased people on both sides. The bad thing he was doing is that he was getting so repetitive about the fracking. The average person doesn't even know what's the difference between oil drilling and fracking. Okay, if they even know, even if they know what that is, and shit, oh snap, the homie's on. What's up? Yeah. So anyway, what's up, Sub?
What up, man? Up here in the summer, bro. We up here. I just got out of class. What's up?
Okay, so no, I'm just wrapping up the debate real quick, and you can probably pick up the other bad thing is that while he was over mentioning, like my man Free said, he could have zinged her on so many things. She was talking about, oh, he's lying or this. Now on Kamala's side, she proved to me that she's not as dumb as I thought she was. She can remember some lines and she can get coached very well. And she knew, and they had to have some Halloween. They had to have some Hollywood people there coaching her because she knew when to get emotional and this and a woman's right to choose, all those what we think are buzzwords and all this. But that word salad stuff works for people. The bad is there were plenty of questions that she did not answer directly as she meandered into things, and I want to say one more thing, and I wish Trump could have said this, and this is the one thing I wish Trump could have said. When she said that Trump called the people and say, don't vote on this immigration bill, he did somewhat correct himself when he talked about like, look, you guys can pass this bill. You didn't need my calls or anything like that. But the reason he didn't sign that wasn't because he didn't call people and say, don't sign it. It's because, as usual, they pack so much pork into those bills that they're like, yeah, we'll get this, but we need all of this. And it was more of that EV garbage that was in that bill. Just wanted to say that. So with that, I'll pass the mic.
Okay, so I'm gonna go Sammy, Freeman, and then Sub. Sammy, what you got, bro?
I actually think that the way she wrapped it up, she did a really good job. She tied in all of the people. You know, she stayed on her side the whole debate, and then she tied in everybody, trying to say that she's going to be a president for everybody, which we know, is BS. But for the people that's jumping in at the end or didn't catch the whole thing, when they hear her say that, it's like, oh, well, it's no division with her. You know, I don't think the people on the right side care about that, but the people on the left definitely do, you know, and it seems like she's an all-inclusive type of person when he's just trying to keep it, you know, his way. And like we talk about all the time, the people that vote emotionally, that's going to hit home with them, you know. So she did a good job tying that in. I didn't think that she could articulate herself that well, and she did. So it was impressive to see that. As far as Trump, like all of you mentioned, he missed a lot of opportunities. I mean, literally, like y'all said, layups, slam dunks, really. You know what I'm saying? She was throwing him alley-oops, and he did not slam it. I mean, it was right there. I feel like he'll go back and watch the tape, watch the film, and he'll pick it apart and be like, damn, I could have really ended this today, but he didn't do that. So I think that I don't know if they'll have another debate. I feel like you said that this is the last one.
She won't get another one. But go ahead.
See, that's tough. So it's gonna be an interesting election. I'll say that because, like we talked about before the last break, nothing was really said to move. You know, I wasn't moved by it. It was no new information. It was nothing that I couldn't see online before this happened. So it's just, hold on.
Hey, Doc, since he had to jump off. Newsmax is saying that right now there's a poll that Trump let Harris skate. So they agree with you.
She got by, and since this is the only debate, like you said, you alluded to the Hollywood coaching. They played it perfectly. She stuck to the script, and I think that's gonna bode well for her campaign. But I don't think she'll have enough to win the election, but we'll see. It's gonna be interesting.
Uh-oh, you talking about 2028. Uh-oh.
Go ahead. I got it.
All right, Freeman, you got it then, Sub. Yes,
hey, who play that video I just put in the back chat real quick? It's like 10 seconds.
All right, let's do it.
While he's queuing up, what's up with the red lights, Sub?
Oh, he in the sauna. Sub in the sauna, man.
Oh, sauna.
What getting fried?
This how I go to bed, man. This how I go to bed, bro.
Does it work or has it worked?
Hell yeah, I sleep like a baby, bro. Just knock you out.
Yeah.
Stay here about 30 minutes. It'll get you.
Yeah, that's actually a thing, that red light therapy thing. It's actually a thing.
So you missed a lot of it, but I'm sure while we queue it up. But I think, okay, I've seen Trump in better debates. B+. This one I'm gonna give him a C+. Kamala, I have to give her a B-.
Yeah, she performed today.
All right, let's see what's going on.
All right, so via Freeman's, let's do it.
Assault weapons that are already in circulation. What do you do about those?
We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
Assault weapons that are already in circulation.
You got you. So you have the floor.
But she's a gun owner. I'm a gun owner.
Yeah. Do you all understand?
Mandatory buybacks are reasonable.
Right. Y'all understand exactly how y'all understand how buybacks work, right? Or what's the whole point of them, right? High level, because we're gun. Well. All of my pistols were in a boat accident. My bad. I'm sorry. But in all seriousness, you disarm citizens with incentives first. Then you put up. The reason that they want that so many bang bang manufacturers can't stand or don't want registries is because what's the whole point of, they can just come to your house when they change the laws. And we know this, and oh my God, these dudes who are texting me are talking about Kamala sent him headshots and body shots. Yeah. But they think like broad, so there's what it is. Let me add this into that whole gun debate. This is all seriousness. And Sub, I was gonna send you this video, because it could be some good content on who you call Jim Stossel. Corleone Noir and John Stossel talked about this post that school shooting, but I've known about it before, is that they deliberately don't track self-defense gun firearm situations. And in one of the videos that Stossel, or one of the examples, Stossel was saying that these anti-gun groups, they go to Hollywood and make them, or basically they incentivize them, I should say, put in things where like a citizen in the bank tries to stop a robber with the gun or whatever, and they shoot him, and then they mock the person in the episode. And the reason, in other words, there's a lot of anti-gun propaganda because, hell, if we didn't have our guns, we'd be like Russia 40 years ago, maybe 50 years ago, So the fact that you got that video, Freeman, hell, I think I need to see something to the damn Trump campaign like, y'all ads suck. All you gotta do is a contrast and compare right here with this, during football season. Done. You got the election.
There you go. Yeah. All right, Sub, what you got, bro?
Yeah, you guys are depressing me, bro. I don't want to, I need to go listen to some people that say Trump won, bro. I just, from what I saw, to be honest with you, from what I saw, it seemed like he got a lot of zingers in there. A lot of things that were funny. The fact that her bar is so low, the fact that she shows up and speaks in complete sentences.
You know what?
Hold on. So people give her clout, and that's why I didn't want to watch it. Was because one of the reasons I didn't want to watch it was because if she just shows up and speaks in complete sentences, she won. And with Trump is not the best communicator. We all know that. Like Trump, they've been like when he was on the National Association of Black Journalists, I would have tried to bite that chick's head off. But he said some stuff back. He threw some punches, but he didn't just. I would have tried to decapitate her ass. And that's what I'm saying. Like Trump is not that guy. I knew that. So he you know what I'm saying? Most of his debates are like this. So it's like for me. That's just from what I saw already. It's pretty much like I expected. She is supposed to be an attorney. She's supposed to be able to speak in complete sentences and walk and chew gum. I know there's going to be a lot of people that say she won because they need that, because the polls was pretty much getting back to Biden level right after that first debate. That's where they were going. Trump was up like 6. They say he had a chance of winning at like 67. Almost 70% chance of winning. So, regardless of the fact, I don't worry about the election. I think they're going to cheat and put this lady in. I think they want to destroy America, and I think they're going to cheat and make sure if she gets in, and they put an OnlyFans worker in. I think Putin was right. Putin is going to smack her on the ass and say, "Go fix me a drink." He doesn't respect her.
Right.
And the thing is, it was laughable to hear her talk about Trump's foreign policy record. There was nothing back in 2019 or 2020 that you could say about his foreign policy at all. I remember the Democrats were even giving him props on that Middle East deal that he did with Israel and those states. He was getting them to come into like a little peace agreement. That type of stuff for me is laughable. And then when they say he made the point, my wife told me he said something about dogs getting eaten. And these dumb niggas on the internet, he lied. Ain't no dogs getting eaten. I'm like, you stupid, ignorant ass nigga. That's why I'm at the point, like, these niggas is gonna cheat anyway. I live in Atlanta. They are gonna cheat. There's Trump signs everywhere. Them niggas in downtown Atlanta gonna cheat. They gonna if Trump gets in, I expect a nuke or some real bad EMP to go off. And I'm just y'all laughing, but I expect it. I was talking this way. I said they're gonna try to kill him. They tried to kill him.
It's going to be another plumbing incident in Fulton County. Hold on.
But
You
that's
said
what
something.
I'm saying. They tried to kill him last election. I mean, not a couple of months ago, a month ago, and the media just completely forgot about it. Now they're going to cheat. They're going to cheat. Pennsylvania has already said it's going to take 5 days. They are going to cheat, bro. They feel like this is the problem. This is the problem I have. America is at a crossroads. The Democrats have gotten so drunk with power. They are going to cheat every election now. It's guaranteed. They already been cheating. They've been cheating for decades.
I don't disagree with you.
I think they're going to cheat at a level where it's right in our face. And I think if let me tell you like this, if the people aren't willing to rise up and be violent and do what they got to do to end this type of stuff, America is done. It needs to break into pieces. That's how I feel about it.
I'm for succession. Hold on a second. Look, Hoop. Let me just because he said something. I want to get I want to get Doc in on this. Doc,
go ahead.
What do you think about Sub's point? I think he really hit it out the park. That basically the bar was basically she was Rudy in there lining up.
God damn.
Hey, I mean, what's your thoughts on this?
So I agree 100%. I think I was talking to Hoop yesterday about it. I was like, look, she's gonna essentially hold the ball, till the clock runs out, which is what she was doing without putting her policy up, her platform and all that. I was like, she's gonna hold the ball to the clock run out, and that's what that was about. Like, to his point, she comes and just says something almost right, and it's a slam dunk for her. If Trump says what the baseline things are that we expect, he's losing, and she comes in and she's not really even saying anything. She's saying the same things that she hasn't been saying, this whole time, like, because it meant nothing. It's just, I'm gonna do this for women's rights. We need to control our bodies. And this is kind of off point, but this really bothers me about their whole platform. Why can't they be responsible with their bodies? Why can't they be, if you happen to get pregnant for whatever reason, move to another state where it's okay, where the people vote for that it's okay, or 2, be more responsible to not get pregnant. And if it's some extreme case, because it's very extreme when it's incest or rape, then and then let me not even say that, because I think it's certain things where if it is rape, they can still have rape kits. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong and stuff like that. But that really bothers me that they run it on that specific thing. It's like women's bodies and what they can and can't do. But it's like, where's the responsibility? So when she's saying things like that and people are like, yeah, that's what we need as a president. Like, that's the problem we have in America. Like, that's what it is. So he's right. She can just say a little bit of something right, and it's great. And Trump didn't do a good job at kicking her when he should have. So I feel like it's not even a draw. In this case, he did lose because he let her do more than he should have done, and he could have done. So yeah, you got it.
Hoop, or I'll go.
Yeah, I got it.
I'm gonna say this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say this right here. I think she was gonna get a bump. She was gonna get a post-debate bump because she didn't get a convention bump. That's rare. I ain't never heard nobody. She didn't get a bump on a convention, and so this is the very first time she's tried to speak to what she's gonna do, and she spent most of the time talking about what Trump did wrong instead of talking about what they have done. She hasn't touted their record. From what I saw, last 45 minutes, she didn't tout what they've done. She talked about, like, he made one point about, you didn't meet with Putin. And they said, okay, did you meet with Putin? I met with Zelensky and so. She did not answer the question. The problem I have, I could get mad at Kamala Harris. I could get mad at Donald Trump. I can get mad at anybody. If the people are so stupid that they can't see that this woman is basically sucking and doing whatever she got to do to get to the top. We deserve destruction. I have a son to worry about. I have a wife, a family. I'm thinking, damn, I need to hurry up, get myself together, and get the hell up out of America. That's what I'm thinking.
Did you ever see the movie Idiocracy?
No.
Oh God, all three of y'all got to see this. And one point in the movie, I forgot. What'd you say?
I say now you got to share it with us, man. Like we
one of these days, I don't know, man. It's old enough. We could probably have a movie night or whatever. But one of the scenes in it was the president was talking to the people. Then he started going into the preacher yell, and then like, yeah, now can I get a yeah? What? We got to stand up, all that, and it got the people all into it. And I segue that into what Kamala was doing when she, a woman has dreams or whatever. And for her, she's bleeding out. And I'm like, less than 2 to 3% of these child deletions are incest, rapes, and all of this stuff. And even though this stuff is very well known, people still just fall into it. So this ties me into Sub, where it's like, my bad, where it's like, I just want these people to tie an anchor to the ankle and jump off the boat. The only problem is I'm still, or I'm a part of this boat too, and that could be the captain. And I actually, I don't have to always be a flag waving USA person to say, yes, this is my country and I like it and I want to see it to where we have our personal liberties. And hell, maybe secession is the next thing, because one thing I just saw here on Newsmax is 22 million people watched tonight. So if 150 million voted, that still means that, okay, and let's just hypothetically say double the people will watch it or will see the clips. I think the logic in me says people are going to, at the end of the day, say, I don't give a fuck what they say. I look at my bank account. And everybody can say, hey, this is affecting my bank account. Last year when this damn tire situation had happened with me, it was no big deal. Now I'm counting pennies under my couch or whatever to pay for it. I'm joking or whatever, but I'm just making a point. No, I'm serious. Yeah. We're all feeling it, no matter what economic level we are. I know plenty of hell. My man had to sell his ceiling fan business. Pause on my man. You get one point. So, but in all seriousness, I think people, I've seen stories of people, where people are like, they got to move back with their parents and these are adult people, because they can't afford schools and things. So I hope those people don't fall for this. I think, let me add one more thing. I wish Trump wouldn't have mentioned the cats and the what's the name story, even though those, and the duck story, even though those are current, they're within the last 2 days. But everybody who's laughing at those stories have seen those videos of that brother at city council saying this. So you can't just say, oh, they picked some random brother to go to Springfield's Ohio city council and talk about ducks getting eaten and all this other shit, right? But again, Sub, while you're gone, man, ABC, they were damn near I don't know, Tyrese Halliburton, Chris Paul or whatever to Kamala, man, with some of the alley-oops and assists they were talking.
Notice there's never been a debate. I have not seen a debate. They did it. Donna Brazile did it, and she helped Obama in 2012. She helped Hillary. There's never been a mistake that helps the Republicans. Every mistake helps the Democrats. Why? Because 98% of our media is liberal. It's to the left. And but what kind of really pissed me off about this whole situation, Donald Trump has to be perfect. He has to. And the person that wants women to be able to have sex recklessly, that wants to put tampons in boys' bathrooms, that wants to give illegal immigrants all these types of benefits, is in a position to even be close. Like that is disheartening more than anything. And even if Trump gets in, what are we going to do in 4 years with these stupid ass people out here in this country that literally will support like this? Look at it, every day there's a new story of black people in Chicago, New York, different places where you see the ramifications of this lady and this administration getting in office, and it's actually up for discussion as to why Donald Trump is even close. And I'm just like, it shouldn't be. If it's close, if it's the fact we got, and I'm listen, I got people, I go on Facebook, I don't like it. My wife showed me talking about a couple of people that we know that's posting blow by blow. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't like really talking about this stuff. I'm trying to get away from it. I'm gonna be to slap the shit out of somebody. Excuse my French. Because really,
I'm there with
bro.
you.
Listen to me, bro. I was in I do IT, right? I got my project ended May 31st. It took me, and I got three offers about 2 weeks ago, right? But it took me a little bit more vigorous. I had to be a lot more vigorous in my job search than normal. My thing is, man, if you're running a company right now, just think about this for a second. You're running a company. Interest rates are high. You got a lady talking about she's going to make you have to pay taxes on unrealized gains. That's what you pay on property tax now. You hadn't sold your home, but you have to pay more taxes for your home because it didn't appreciate. That's what she wants to do on everything. She wants to think about that. This lady actually put that policy out in this close. She like, who would put a part, like, who supports that? Like, wait a minute. So you telling me if I buy some stock or I buy anything and it appreciates in value?
I think you're going. I agree with everything you're saying.
It's tiring. It's just, to me, it is tiring. And I think, look, man, but let me say this: cultural Marxism has done its work, bro. It has destroyed America, and black people are the chief agitators of these people. They're the chief tool, and it's just like the Matrix when he was training Neo. He said, "Hey, these people are in the system, and they will fight hopelessly to defend it. They'll fight to the death to stay in it." That's the average American. It's not just black people. It's Americans. I'm sick of the people. Let me say this: the country, the government we have is a reflection of the people. Just like the government of Venezuela and what these people that's coming from these foreign countries, the reason they got to come from them foreign countries is because of their voting habits. It's because of their values. They ain't worth nothing. So we getting scum. We're not getting. That's why their countries are messed up. Our country was messed up. We were broke. What did we do? We had an industrial revolution. We did what we did, and we became a superpower. Other countries have dug themselves out the hole. The people don't want to do the work. They'll rather come up here and leech off our ass, and they're gonna do it here. They're gonna leech our ass dry because they leech their own. You can hold on. Let me say this: you got people in Venezuela that vote straight communist, socialist. I was in the Dominican Republic some years ago during election time. They were voting for the Socialist Party. I actually asked them. That's why the Dominican Republic looks like it does.
Right.
People are leeches, and that's who's coming. The Venezuelans, all those people from these Latin American people, all of them ain't hard working. A lot of them are going to come up here and they're going to leech 4 and 5 generations.
I'm going to give you two guys a layup. I promise you on this one. But when you give people something, they don't value it. This is why. And listen, I'm from a neighborhood that became the hood. Okay. When I said it became the hood. It wasn't always like that. When you give people something, or it's kind of like, this is why the spoiled kid typically doesn't have a good work ethic, because things were given to them. And that's that cultural dependency. But speaking of cultural, you said something about cultural Marxism. Hoop, you're going to love how I'm going to weave this back into politics. I promise you.
Okay.
Everybody has seen the Tyreek Hill video. Here it's been damn near major news. Disclaimer: I am a big Tyreek Hill fan on the field, not off the field.
Right.
I think, okay, shout out to former president in 45, hopefully 47. I'm a little bit more hopeful than Donald Trump. Both sides were wrong. No. Both sides were wrong. No. Listen, Tyreek, that area where he was at, you coming off that ramp at 100 miles an hour, or you were going 100 miles an hour, dog, you know better. That's like one of those areas, like 20, 30 miles, maybe at 40 at best. Granted, you rolling a $300,000 McLaren, and I get it. Motherfucker tapping your car window like, and I'm gonna tie this back to politics. Motherfucker tapping your car window like he the damn Pope. Well, he was the police. My bad. But like you're gonna break it. But he should also know, oh shit. Let me just lower my windows. My bad, officer. Yeah, I play. You need my driver. Where's your driver's license? I'm sorry, officer, I'm going to reach for my registration and just grab this, boom, give him that, hey, I'm on the Dolphins, you were going 100 or whatever, but all that fighting back and forth and shit. Now, that officer was a piece of shit and just pulling him out the car immediately. Now, why am I touching on this? Because motherfuckers, just like Sub said something about the cultural Marxism and how they've really weaved people, man, so many people want to, they are desperate for a George Floyd incident on Facebook. Hoop, Sub, Doc. They are desperate for it. They are clamoring for it. Oh, yeah. See, even though he got 100 million, he's still done wrong or whatever. Like, at the end of the day, this is going to be resolved and it changes no one's lives. And why am I bringing that up? It's like because too many black people are not focused on the real plan. I don't give a fuck that Jerry Jones was seen in a photo at the Nebraska 5 or whatever. Hell, he could have been throwing rocks. That dude has made more millionaires than black people. I'm going to take your money and top you. How about that? I'm speculating. It's the simple things that get black people off the course to whereas that's why Hoop and now I'll pass it or whatever to one of you. You could. It's like
we're not gonna, bro. We're not. Black people will not survive probably the next 40, 50 years over. And I think, and I'm gonna be honest with you, like I think culturally, we're getting what we deserve. We're not marrying. We're not. So we're not producing nuclear families. Our birth rate has become negative with all the aborting of children. Last year, even though they knocked down Roe v. Wade, we still had more unaliving of children. So that just goes to show you these niggas is determined. And check this out. This girl, my brother-in-law, he's young. I've been knowing him since he was 5. He met this girl. He likes her. And so, he sent my wife. Said, oh man, I think this the one, man. She nice, she classy. So she goes and said, what's her name? She got her name. My wife went and looked up on Facebook. Instantly, she called back, leave her alone. Man, this girl had all type of stuff. She basically, on her own page, acknowledged that she had an unlife of a child, like and was putting LOL laughing emojis about killing a child.
This is sick.
Low class.
Hey,
and my thing is that's the dating pool for my. But I'm like, these women have no morals. It's not just the women; it's the men too. So I just think the country morally. And it's funny because I actually wrote a book about it. I know y'all. What? Yeah, that's why I ain't been going lively. But I did that all.
Fading in and out.
I was saying I worked on my book because I've been off and I haven't been live lately. Because I wrote a book about all this, about the ills of the black community and why they were the key agitators that Marxists chose to tear down America. And so I got all the usual suspects. I even got some people I never heard of and put them in there.
That's why you've been talking with Chuck a lot.
Yeah,
here,
because
this is one
trying
reason
to use that Frantz Fanon and all these different people, Paul Robeson, all these different people, Audre Lorde.
Hold on,
I went in on all that stuff.
This is why you got to see the movie. You all got to. I promise you, it's from 2006. Idiocracy. Here, it starts off. They show 2 couples. They show a nice professional couple, and they show these redneck hillbilly couples. And the nice professional couple, it almost made me feel guilty or whatever. And it was like they're like, yes, we'd love to have children, but we're gonna wait. We're trying to get our careers together. Meantime, the hillbilly people, it had like 5 years later, they got 10 kids. And then the next thing they show is like their 15-year-old is pregnant and arguing with the mother. Basically, 20 years or 15 years had went by. They said, dude I don't want to give it all away, but they've created 100 dumb people while these so-called air quotes smart people, are just sitting there. And it's almost like a parallel of kind of what's happened. But I was just bringing that up in that when it comes down to the issues, do I think Trump is polished? I think granted, he's in his 70s. I think it's embarrassing he's not embarrassing per se, but he should have more. He should understand this politics things more, but hey, maybe he knows something I don't know. Maybe he knows that the people who like him like that, and that the independent people will see, like, look, I got to judge things by where things are right now. I don't want to hear a rah-rah speech. I'll land the plane here. I just saw something. It was like, does Trump really have to sell himself? And I'm like, I think he does to his independence, but I'm not going to make an excuse or whatever on the, I think you still made a great point about, and that was even an excellent builder on the point, Doc, when you had said about they just going to run, they're going to use all 24 seconds on this, and they're just going to play a time game with you. And you don't really need to do much to convince the average person, especially when you're talking about giving money away. But what about existing businesses? She loves touting this. I'm going to give $25,000 to new businesses. Okay, hey, I got a staff of 10. What about me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well,
I mean, if you're going to turn your 401k, you have to pay taxes on your 401k every year, like property taxes. That's ridiculous, bro. 25%.
There you go. Hold on. Yeah. So I mean, this again, I judge this from the people who gonna listen to this, right? Because the people who listen to this, obviously gonna be melanated black, whatever you want to, call that shit. And that's kind of what our deduction, what me and Sammy's deduction was of how they receive it. And I think our social media timelines kind of reflect that. So what's up when you came in and you said that y'all being negative? I know you're speaking tongue in cheek, hyperbolic. That's kind of how niggas are receiving it, and I think we can see that in real time. But ultimately, I'm holding firm, and I think I didn't gain or lose nothing from none of this shit. A small part, I saw that Kamala, based on what her constituents want from her, I think she delivered to them. They wanted her to do the strong woman of color shit. And it's just funny, when we kind of commentated in the, in script, because we couldn't verbally commentate, that when the question came up about her being black, she didn't answer the question. So the average nigga ain't gonna put her feet to the fire with that, because she just gone sidestep it and went back to the deflection routine she did. And what I was on the timeline, it didn't affect. Going to the last question we saw about what is her plan going to be, she didn't answer the question. So some people I saw on my timeline saying that Donald Trump didn't answer no questions. I'm like, okay, on a few things, maybe he danced a little bit, but you've seen him in 4 years being a goddamn presiding president. You know what he about. So ultimately speaking, and that's why I said I don't think that she's going to take another debate. I think it's a net positive what they thought this would be, and that's why I said what I said.
But she can't hold this for 2 months though. She couldn't hold that bump she got when she announced and they gave her the nomination. She couldn't hold that, and she had the media sucking her off straight for a month, straight, and she still went down in the polls. So
I think, though, I'm glad you bring that up, though. I do think, okay, right quick. I'm listening to y'all.
Go ahead.
I'm watching. Even though Newsmax is on the right, it's a little bit more fairer than Fox in a sense, and they're showing various tweets, and people are seeing that, hey, you saw Trump can go out and play the victim somewhat. I was playing 3-on-1. The moderators was against me. Hey, look, this is what I've done. Now, it was something you had just said, Hoop, and I lost my train of thought on it, but I was just basically saying that in general, Trump was he could have landed 2 zingers. Obviously, the one he landed or whatever, he was waiting for her to 1 second. Hold on. See, these niggas talking shit in my text, and I'm just gonna ignore it or whatever. You know what,
bro? I don't see how you be friends with no little damn niggas with PMS like that. I couldn't do it.
I'm not gonna even do it. No,
I've been saying something real disrespectful to them niggas. That's what I'm saying. I don't got time for niggas. Like, bro, Trump said one thing. He said we on the brink of World War III. We are.
No, we are. And they don't even
listen.
understand
If she gets the nomination China's going to Taiwan. They finna take over the microchip industry. They are going to take it over. That is what's gonna happen. So America will be in decline. She is a woman that you smack on the ass and tell you to go fix her a sandwich. She's not a woman. She's not, and I don't like masculine women. But if you're gonna be president, damn it, you need to be a woman that at least men would respect. She's not. She doesn't command respect. She does not command respect. If I met her out and about and I was like, yeah, what's up? What's happening? Like she one of them chicks you can get straight to it. Like, what's up, man? What you gonna do? Like, what time it is? Like, that's what she is. She is not a woman that she gonna be like, oh, let me take her out on a date. And she a hoe.
I said a
She a
lot.
hoe.
Yeah, I said a lot, and I'm gonna say something that then this is on a serious side. Then this is what really disappoints me. And my bad, Doc, if you're affiliated and all this, I'm not talking about you. Look, I just look at the simple things. Who can progress the economy and who wants to take more of my freedoms? That's generally how I vote. I don't care about who I like and all this. Now, I understand everybody doesn't see things that way. But for many black men, and I want black men to always just think objectively, but for so many black men to be thinking like your average sister girl and thinking that, I mean, we've seen in our lifetimes countries that have completely gone communist / Marxist that were once prosperous countries. And I'm talking about in our short lifetimes. And people don't really understand people, oh God, I'm getting distracted by some things. People don't understand the seriousness. Now these niggas is making jokes about the dogs and shit or whatever. And this
oh,
is
they says that them niggas. Hold up. So them niggas don't know that they eating dogs. They don't know that. I saw the lady. This lady said she was looking for her cat. They had him strung up, bleeding the blood up out of him.
Mm-hmm.
Like these people do that. I've been in these countries. I've been over for. I've been in a lot of countries. They eat. It ain't nothing for them to cut an animal up and eat him. I don't know why they act like that's what these people do. They eat dog shit.
And even then, sub though, and this is where I got to get to the point where I've just like I just divorced myself of this, because even when you show these people the proof of things,
doesn't matter.
They're so a part of the, and this is what I was trying to get at earlier. I stumbled upon myself. They're so part of a cultist mindset. Now, I can criticize Trump. I can criticize JD Vance's relationship with Peter Thiel. I can be very fair in my criticism, but I'm not so part of a cult that I'm like, yeah, I'm going to worship, I'm not going to ever have to question them because they got my best interests, and dudes acting giddy like this. And we're dealing, I'm almost like, shit, maybe I should vote for Kamala so we can get to, so we can get to this. And there's some real survival.
Bro, I don't know who them niggas is you friends with. Them niggas is wearing panties, bro. Like, if you celebrating a woman who is talking, like the policies that she's outlined, you want that implemented. I mean, if she got her way, let's say she really got her way, what is she saying she's going to try to do? The woman is to the left of Joe Biden. This woman is talking about doing stuff, price controls. She's talking about taxing your damn 401k. If it goes up in value, she get 25%. Passive income goes to the government.
Yeah, that's crazy.
She voted against the tax thing for she voted to tax tips and track it. Now she's talking about she's gonna let people keep their tax. Man, bro, this woman, that's what I'm saying. It's like what we're talking about, what we're discussing is a very bad candidate she's not even a good debate. Like, it's not even something that you can say, okay, she's making real substantive points. And they celebrating because she spoke in complete sentences.
I know.
Look, I'm done. I'm finna go to bed. I got to start tomorrow, my first day. So,
all right,
I got to start tomorrow, man. God bless y'all. Have a good one.
All right, so be cool, bro.
Hey, hit the volume. Hit the volume.
Okay. All right. Sam, you got anything?
Oh no, I was just listening. We can listen to what they saying right there. And I'll get back in.
I have no idea. Mr. President, Republicans are complaining about moderators. Does that mean it wasn't a good night? You're not prepared? No, I said the moderators were very unfair, but basically it was 3-on-1. But I thought they were very unfair. Everybody did. But despite that, they're saying that Mr. President,
why not a second debate?
I assume the moderators would be there. That right there is the worst of all the issues that was on my fingers.
Mr. President, why not a second debate?
She wants a second debate because she lost tonight. They immediately called for a second debate because they lost. Think about that. She immediately called for saying, look,
If she lost, will you do it? Will you do it?
the worst call we've had was 71 that I see. 71% are like 24 or 25.
Mr. President, did she get up the
President Trump,
Almost 3 hours.
You can barely hear it. I was listening to it on my
Yes, it's a little
TV, and I'm a
muffled.
little ahead. I think that, and to Sub's point, I was gonna counter him, but he's starting tomorrow. So, but one time Sub says, it's like, look, I can be friends with, hell, if I judge it on political parties, I would not have any damn friends or people to hang out with. And that's somewhat the case. These are some guys who I knew back from Minnesota. We cool, we fam. I mean, we don't talk all the time, but I really don't get into those things. Listen, I'm not trying to be. I think Trump missed several opportunities. We've already over discussed that, but it was just some things that came to mind where, forget the fracking for just a second, because I even think this is the circus that elections, I think, have become. It's like the real issues take a back burner to the personality, and it was something that he had said, or she said, and I'm like, oh my God, you could hit her with, well, as a prosecutor, there's a person, I believe his name is Jamal Truelove. He was on one of those reality shows, well, he wouldn't have to go that deep, and there was DNA evidence that you deliberately blocked. This is all over the internet, which has also censored me, since he loves talking about himself, I mean, he said earlier about the whole plan, when she posted a policy on her site that it was copy and pasted from Biden's, not that she's going to respond to it. It's almost kind of like, man, the old school political debates where you stomp someone on a fact and, they took it on the chin. Now, it doesn't resonate with, it doesn't resonate with certain people like it used to. It's almost like you just got to kind of mudsling, what's your approach to government? And I do agree. Trump takes a very power-centric vote. Now, he was right about her father being a communist teacher, and we all know how communism go. And they, when it's these policies, oh yeah, he could have talked about the price controls that she directly talked about, not her people, but man, this is going to be very interesting. But again, I think it will come down to people and the economics at the end of the day, and that illegal stuff. I'm glad I'm in Florida. So, where I'm not impacted by that, but we've seen the videos, and those are just the ones that go viral. Imagine what's not happening,
Correct.
It's, I mean, hell, look at, I heard out there, Hoop, that even Gavin Newsom said, man, we can't pass this $150,000 house shit to these illegals. Hell no. And he vetoed that shit.
And that's crazy coming from him.
He's damn, hold on. Let me see what DeSantis is. The DeSantis is coming up.
All right. Let me turn it up.
The moderators, isn't that their job I mean, if you say you want a $93 trillion Green New Deal and you're going to eliminate the filibuster to pass it, shouldn't we ask that? If you want to mandate, government health care and eliminate private insurance, shouldn't that have come up in this debate? If you want sex change operations paid for by taxpayers for convicted criminals and illegal immigrants, don't you think that would come up in a debate?
Yeah, well, it was all about looking at all this stuff through a left of center prism. So they were hitting Trump on, of course, January 6th. They were hitting Trump on some of his statements about holding people accountable. All these different things, that's right out of what a left of center person would do. They never hit her from the right. She took more liberal positions when she ran for president than Bernie Sanders did on a wide variety of issues. And yet they acted like that wasn't even worth bringing up, especially as she's trying to present herself to the American people as someone much different than the U.S. senator who took all those very left-wing positions, whether it's abolishing private health insurance, whether it's abolishing fracking, or whether it's paying for, with taxpayer dollars, as you mentioned, Sean, sex change operations for illegal aliens. You've got to be kidding me. And yet they never broach those subjects in a serious way.
All right, Governor DeSantis, we appreciate you being with us. Joining us now is RNC co-chair Laura Trump. There is a chance, I think your father-in-law is making his way over here if he can get through the mob.
Crazier things have happened, Sean, so we'll see, yes.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, you watched the debate. Let's get your overall view.
Yeah, I mean, it was 3-on-1. It was sort of what we expected. Kamala Harris got up there. She lied. She brought up Project 2025.
Turn it down for just a second if you
not
don't
just
mind.
once, but multiple times, knowing full well
That's her.
something
That's her
Donald Trump has disavowed.
father-in-law.
He says it has nothing to do
I
with
can play
it.
the bias both ways.
Right.
That's her father. That's her father-in-law. Of course, she's gonna say,
But she's not
What I
wrong.
am
They bought Project 2025 twice, and I'm just like you knew that was coming. That man, listen, if it proves later that he's lying, that he is about that, okay, we can address that. But
here's the thing.
But hold on. But what you can do is you have to take a man on his laurels. He said that he's not attached to that several times, but it keeps coming up. So it's almost like when you're a lawyer, when you say something that you know they'll be stricken from the record, but the fucking jury still hears it. You know what I'm saying?
That's the point. And right, that's the point of it. I was gonna say that's where the gaslighting is.
Correct.
But let me help you out even more to show you how rigged this stuff is. The Project 2025 comes from the Heritage Conference, Heritage Foundation. It's a mostly right-leaning group, but I know of a brother. He writes some very good articles too. You familiar with Delano Squires?
Yeah.
That's who he works for, but he writes more on the social side, So why have we heard about this just suddenly starting in May? Because the media was putting it out there. It's 900 pages, dude. Some of the ideas are good. Some of them, bottom line, they promote a more traditional family type aspect to things, right? And when, sadly, as far as it relates to most of us Black people, when we hear tradition, we think of the Waltons, we think of white people, slavery, and all that stuff. Sadly, that's just the way it is. It's not about Trump, but the fact that they keep doing it tells me they put that out there. And most people, I remember, in fact, here, let me just go on a slight tangent before I heat me up a pizza. Man, give me your thoughts on this. And I think I nailed it. I literally heard, I can't remember who, but it was one of these Democrats, and it was something I was watching in one of these BBC videos, and it was two Democrats, and they were basically saying that, well, most people only get their information from social. I want to say it was Kamala who said it, but anyways, don't hold me to that. But they said, my simple statement is that most people only get their news from social media, and even worse, social media memes. Can we agree on that? Yes or no? And the Democrat was arguing, well, that's the only reason. Well, yeah, you would want to. It was basically talking about when you post misinformation and things like that. And what's the problem with that? And it's like, wait a minute. We have a person who's voting, who is getting their material from a social media meme. And I believe where the Democrats excel is in culture. They're aware of this. And this is where the Republicans fail miserably, although our culture has moved away more. And again, I'm not all pro-Republican per se. I'm just saying the difference between liberalism and traditionalism. And again, not saying that the most modern Republicans are rhinos, right? Republican in name only. They talk all this bullshit and they're not really about that life, as they say. But give me your thoughts on this whole most people get their news from social media and at worst, social media memes, or they don't want to look, they don't want to be a part of the on the outs, like they would never call me this in my face, but I'm Supreme King Coon.
Right.
But I'm glad I don't care what they right. I don't care what they say because I know that they're uninformed. But yeah, man, I just think, but what's your thoughts on a Democrat saying they were defending people being able to populate? Damn, my refrigerator's open.
Well,
go ahead.
So yeah, because I do these all the time. Sammy, you got it, bro.
Oh, he asked a question. I don't know if he finished it though.
Yeah, he's saying, what do you think about
poop?
Yeah, who kind of force you to think a certain way, and how do you stay firm on your beliefs, basically?
Right. Man, I don't know, bro. I think so. I asked the question a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, about both candidates and why people were voting for each, because I really hadn't done any research on it. I didn't know. I mean, I know Trump from the previous term, but Kamala, I haven't seen her since the whole Pearls and Chucks, campaign that she ran to, get in office now. So I don't know what she's done. I know a lot of things that they promised didn't happen. And I know in the past almost 4 years that the Democrats have been very disgruntled with their production or lack thereof. So I'm interested to know why people are so pressed to vote for her when they haven't liked what they've done. And I know they putting it on Joe, but she's right. She's his teammate. You know what I'm saying? Like she Pippen to Jordan. You know what I'm saying? So why are they so pressed to vote for her now? And I know the answer is because they hate him. But is that why we voting? Is that what we doing in this country? And if that's the case, then why does this shit even matter? You know what I'm saying? Like it's just entertainment at this point. Today. You say what?
I'm laughing. Yep.
Yeah. It's pure entertainment, and it's disheartening to watch and actually live through. But I don't know, man. I don't really see anything concrete, so I always defer back to what the platforms are. And I really, I'll be honest, I came up liberal, with that liberal mindset. And
we all did.
Right, we all do that. Bingo.
But I see how debilitating that it is, when you're actually trying to do something with your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's cool to get promised $6,000 for a baby for the first year of his life, but really, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what you want, or $50,000 to start a new business. Not even to start a new business, $50,000 tax deduction, because that's different. You know what I'm saying? So, like you asked, I think it was you, sir, that asked earlier, like, what about the existing businesses? Like, I have a few. We can't get none of that because we already existing. You know what I'm saying? Like, where are the brakes for us? Then we've been rolling already. You know what I'm saying? So I don't like it when, I have a problem when people are voting because they want to get something. They want to be given something. You know what I'm saying? And they don't want to do something for it. And I trust me, if they giving away shit, I'm not gonna act like I'm not gonna take it. I'll take it. But if that changes everything that we're doing in the country, which is we want to reach the highest level, you know what I'm saying? That should be the goal, to reach the highest level, to get to be one of these billionaires that get out with tax breaks. Like that should be your aspiration and your goals, but that's not what it is. It's like on that side, it's like I'm gonna chill and I'm gonna wait till they give me everything I need and I'm good here. and that at least mentality, and that shit just bothers my soul. So to your question, everybody getting their stuff off of social media. The things that I've seen, honestly, have come from social media. I went to their websites directly because I wanted to see what that platform for. I haven't been since last week, you know, and y'all say that she's updated her since Sunday, so I'll go back and look at it. But now that you also say that she just copy and pasted from Joe's, it's not even worth going to look at. But it's just, this whole thing is, I don't know, it's kind of a wash for me right now. I don't even think I want to vote at all because I don't really feel like it matters anymore.
I'm going to talk you out of that one. And here's why. But not at the federal, and even though Hoop lives in California, and look, I'm not trying to give you no lesson or anything, man. It's that local level that kills us. This is exactly why Chicago's a sanctuary city and New York is a sanctuary city, because you know who they elect. That's what directly affects you. And then most people just see that top D or that top R, and they just voted all the way down, you know, and not knowing that these people, and they have documented, you know, Brandon Johnson. I like using Chicago as an example because it's easier to find what I say. He said, yeah, well, the reason that they're getting those money, we're giving these illegals these cards, is because it's black processing companies that are creating these cards, and I'm helping out black businesses while I'm giving the immigrants, you know, this extra cash. And I'm like, wow. He basically told you, don't even, you know, Trump. Well, that would have seemed like he attacking Biden too much. I don't want to get down to the globalist thing, but George Soros' son was at the White House 17 times this year. Now, of course, how would I know this? I follow politics like I follow sports, but that's just me. I just think I'll agree with you on this. It can turn into WWF and all this. I call Democrats the accelerator, Republicans are the brakes. We're going down the same road. She supports, he did mention about that trans thing, and that's more of a trendy topic, but the fact that we're having discussions about tampons and boys' bathrooms and all this shit, it's so goofy that we're at this national level and all this. Or I do think it's a very serious issue about kids reaffirming their thing before they're 18. That is serious, you know, but at the national level, it's like,
hold on. What did you mean by that? I'm sorry.
So in California, there's a bill that's passed now that if a child is under 18, so your 12-year-old boy, God forbid you have a son. I hope you don't.
He has two.
I got two.
Okay, so let me not use you as an example because I don't even want you to think.
It's fine. Usually, it's cool.
So your 12-year-old boy, your 10-year-old boy or whatever, he goes to a teacher and says, you know, my dad has me doing too many masculine things. You know, I like cross-dressing in my mother's clothes. I want to be a girl. The teacher doesn't have a right anymore to come to you as a parent.
Right. They can overshoot you.
And they can literally start the process of being prescribed puberty blockers without the parents being informed. Yes, this law is passed in California. Are you laughing?
No, I'm like, no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
No, I am. I'm like, what?
You're like, what? You see? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This shit is real.
This is a thing.
What? Tell me what that's called, because like what law?
Here. Hoop can explain. I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Okay, please, because that wow.
Yeah, they can supersede your authority as a parent, and also there may be some legal ramifications for you for not affirming them in their lifestyle choice. And that's scary as shit.
Somebody under 18 years old.
Right. So they basically are making it where these are outlines. So one thing I don't want to be is too obtuse where like we thinking that this is like everyday thing for a lot of people. It's not. This is a pretty acute level of reality, but it is a level of reality. So yeah, so they're stepping in and doing this shit, and people just kind of just like whatever. And listen, I got to be fair. when I talk about like, body autonomy for women, the argument that women make about rape and the damn I love this Ozempic commercial. Oh, Ozempic. No,
I know this is
I love that
insane.
commercial. But no, it's like, so I know when people say that, okay, well, incest or rape or all that stuff, yeah, those things can happen, and it kind of turns into like the overarching piece. With this one, this is kind of an outlier, but this is the shit they espouse, and it's something that touch with 10-foot pole when you press them.
Rap. I'm sorry. Hey, what's up, Rap God? Doc, in the back chat, I placed the link, and that's from NBC News, not some obscure right-wing website.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna say this too. So with the $50,000 tax, well, $50,000 credit, to me, it's just like, okay, that's cool. But with people with $100,000, habits and credits, like that doesn't do shit for you. Because, i.e., you're biting off more than you can chew because your lifestyle is undisciplined. It's kind of going back what Sammy was saying, like, the discipline that comes with a certain, faction of, ideology. So if you're getting all this money, but you're just going to fuck it off anyway, what's the point? What's the point? You're getting this tax credit, so fuck off because you got fucked up goddamn morals. You got fucked up goddamn ideology. What is it really doing for you? It's just a good talking point to get you in the door to fail. And I ain't fucking with that shit. Like, well, I'm gonna say the last thing. Like, me and Sammy had a discussion with someone here. I won't be specific for the sake of the, it's been a general discussion on the internet. But I told the nigga who I was talking to was like, dog, you can't throw money at a problem and fix it. That's not how it works. You have to.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you have to reprogram in level set. You can't just throw money at a problem and think it's gonna fix it. Because a fucked up person is gonna do fucked up shit with more resources. Man, and I'll land the plane here. We've seen fuck their money off. Lottery winners, and it's kind of in order. So a logical person can deduce that. Yeah, that's not how you fix the problem, man. Now I'll let my plane up.
I agree. And I think that's the fundamental issue that we're dealing with. And I really haven't seen a solution for it yet. It's either going to be one way or the other. Like, why is it no middle ground? Like, what is there not a party that exists for the middle ground?
I do think that there is a possibility when level-minded people get to middle ground. But I think we're at a stage where cultural problems can't be solved with cash.
Right.
Now,
Correct.
cash will help, but
Correct.
For example, I mean, I would love to sit down and talk with candid educators. Hear me out on this. When I say candid educators about, okay, what do we do with the trash in the school? What do we do with the accelerated in school? And then what do we do with everyone in the middle? Now, with the trash, do we take them to a separate school or whatever? But unfortunately, many educators are loyal to their union first. And why wouldn't they be? That's who protects their benefits, and they deal with parents who don't give a shit, This is where I'm like, let the market choose. And when I say let the market choose, this is why I'm a proponent of school choice. The parents who don't care don't give a shit about their kids, what school they go to or whatever, right? Generally speaking, I'm saying. Whereas the parents who do care, they can send their kids to the good schools because that's where the parents, Now, how we deal with the garbage, and when I say garbage, y'all know what I mean, or whatever, the distracting kids, the kids' problems, that's something, hell, we got more than enough social services people or whatever to figure out what really works, whether those are boot camps, whether those are mandatory, some kind of service, you know. I do think that there is one specific issue that concerns me. I do want the Department of Education to go to hell away. I didn't realize that it was only 40 years old. And you're like, well, damn, what's wrong with that? Because regulating education at a federal level, I think, is stupid. And let me land a plane here. We're very simply. How kids learn in certain regions is very different how kids learn in other regions. Bringing in these national tests, that's not necessarily reflective of they know a skill or something like that. You know what I'm saying? You know, you can use that for the colleges, you know, for the ACT and SAT. But every year they got to meet some kind of competency test. And then if they don't, then the school gets no money. That's a dumb incentive. You know, all kids don't learn the same. And then also, you know, now, you know, schools have gotten so bad that they've lowered the standards. Hell, we see these younger Gen Z people, what is that, 18 to 30, who barely know how to count change. We see them every day. And we're in 2024 now, gentlemen.
Hey, real talk. Well, I'm gonna have to
It's all good.
Thanks I gotta
for
eat.
hosting. Yeah, thanks for hosting.
It's been a good
hey,
3
good
hours.
meeting you, Doc.
Oh yeah, you too, bro. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. So we're gonna do more, y'all. I see a subscriber count went up, so we're gonna get back on doing this over here. Tice, thank you for coming over, man. We're gonna have you more. Because this channel used to be like super popular. So we're gonna get it back popping, man.
I don't know what you said. That shit broke up.
No, I was saying, you know, we have this channel popping. We're gonna get it back super popping. We appreciate everybody pulling up there.
We say that shit every time.
Shit, all right. We gotta just fire this motherfucker up.
We gotta do it. So yeah, this was good. I think this is the longest we ever been on those streams. So
yeah. 3 hours, 5 minutes. Yep. Yeah, it's time to eat. So I gotta go spend some time with my lady.
Yeah. All right, shit. And you been.
All right, y'all cool. Till next time, wise guys, we are out.
Peace.
Peace.